Alright guys, today is finally that day. Today's my Oculus Quest 2 review. I've had this thing for over a week and I've been playing hours and hours every day with this thing in a variety of different ways. I even got my wife one of these headsets and we've been playing a lot of multiplayer back and forth to see how it works in the house and stuff like that. So we had a lot of time with this headset and now I'm finally ready to give you guys my full review. Now caveat here, for those of you guys who want to know right on the top, this headset is amazing. There's a lot of good things about it, but there's also some issues with it, and that's what we're going to dive into. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a recce is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, for you guys who have never actually used a Quest before, and don't know exactly what this product is, this is a standalone VR headset, so that means that you do not need anything else to actually use this. You get these two controllers, you get the headset in the box, no PC needed, and you can run native games on here with no issues at all. So it's a headset that has everything you need right inside, no other equipment needed, which is obviously one of the big reasons why this headset is so popular and was when the Quest 1 came out, because of the fact that it's all wireless and you don't need a PC. A lot of people who want to get into VR and want to use VR are not going to have a gaming PC that costs, $1,500 or $1,200, whatever the case may be, to get that equipment that they need. So this gives you a way to experience VR, and a really, really good VR, in my opinion, on some of the games that have been on here. And the Quest 1 already did that, but the Quest 2 magnifies that, 2 or 3 times that level for a bunch of different reasons that we're going to get into. The first thing we got to talk about, of course, is the actual tracking itself. Now, the tracking with these controllers here is fantastic. I actually feel like the tracking on the Oculus Quest 2 is actually better than the Quest 1. When I play Beat Saber on Expert and all that stuff and I'm playing, it feels like I have never actually had an issue with tracking. I've never lost my hands in Beat Saber. I've never actually had any issues with tracking being lost in the exact environment that I played the Quest 1. I have no issues at all playing it, and I haven't lost tracking or anything like that in any of the games that I've played, which is different than what the Quest 1. The Quest 1's tracking, I would say, is like 98%, like really, really good. And this one, I think, hits like 99.999 for me, as far as issues with the tracking or anything being lost. On the Quest 1, I lost it a couple times in the middle of Beat Saber. If you had your hand over here, we kind of get lost or something, but for whatever reason, on here, those tracking issues for me seem resolved. So it seems more responsive also. It feels like more fluid when you're moving your hands and stuff. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that we'll get into. But yeah, I'm really, really impressed with the actual tracking of this system. Even compared to the Quest 1, I think it's a little bit better, a little bit more responsive than it was on the Quest 1. One of the other things to talk about with this headset is that this headset is actually 50 grams lighter than the original Quest 1. And if you had the Quest 1 before and you kind of look at this from side to side, you can see that this is definitely lighter and more compact. You can see the size, and this is me using an Elite strap on here, not the original strap. But regardless, you can see the front of it. You can see that it's a smaller design. You can see that there's, that it's a lighter and compact and a little bit less weight. But on saying that also, it's still a front-heavy device. It's not going to be, it's definitely better than the Quest 1 was. It's not as heavy or as that one was, but you're still going to feel the headset in front of you when you put it on with the original straps that it comes with and stuff, for sure. So that's not something we're going to get away from. I mean, there's a lot of power and a lot of things that are going into that front of that headset, but I'm glad that they, made it a little bit less weight, and they shrunk the size down a little bit. So all good things to make the headset more comfortable from here. Speaking of comfort, that's where we get into a couple of negatives with this headset here. As you guys can see, I already have the Elite strap on here. So the first couple of days, I didn't get my Elite strap in, so I was actually using the original band that it came with. And I was using it, and I put it on, and literally 10 or 15 minutes after I had that original strap on, I was already having issues with it, where it would already hurt the back of my head, and it wasn't comfortable, and I already wanted to take the headset off. Now, obviously, I powered through it and ignored it and continued to play games until the headset died, and didn't have any issues as far as playing, but it was uncomfortable throughout the whole entire time. It definitely wasn't as comfortable as my Valve Index is. Definitely not as comfortable as the original Quest 1, in my opinion, with this strap. The only thing I would use the strap for that it really comes with is if you're laying in bed and you want to watch a movie and stuff, because the strap obviously is going to be better because there's not much there to give away, so it's easier to sit on a chair, watch a movie, or watch something in bed. But or go on an airplane. If you want to go on an airplane and you want to sit back on the seat, that's going to be better than the Elite strap that has this gigantic bump there on the back. Obviously that's going to be better. But for any other reason, like for playing games 90% of the time, and stuff like that, you know, it's not a strap I want. I already took it off, and obviously, as you can see, I have the Elite strap on here. So that comes to my first point. I think for you guys who have not experienced VR before and you don't know what it feels like and stuff like that, I think you should get the Quest 2. Don't get the Elite strap right in the beginning. Get the Quest 2, because I have seen some people online say that the strap is perfectly comfortable for them. I don't know how that's possible, to be honest, but there has been a few people. So get it, test it out, see if the regular strap is good for you. If it works for your head shape, you know, everyone's head's different, then leave it as is, and you don't have to worry about it. But for those of you guys who are feeling pain on the back, or you don't think it's as comfortable, or if you're my wife who actually got it and couldn't get the headset actually situated on her head correctly, like she was seeing blurry and stuff, and every time she moved her head, like the strap just wasn't good for her shape of head. And immediately when I let her try mine with the Elite strap, she was like, oh, we need to get an Elite strap for mine. So that's what we did. So Elite strap is $49.99 if you just want the Elite strap that looks just like this, except mine has the actual battery on it. So if you want the battery that has the battery, you can see the plug going here, all nicely built in, and the battery's built into the back, which is nice because it adds some more counterweight to the headset, so it makes it even a little bit more comfortable than the regular Elite strap because it has some more weight on the back, so that weight is being distributed a little bit more evenly. But regardless, I think you'll be fine with either one. If you want the extra battery life, the Elite strap that gives you 2 to 2.5 more hours on top of the battery life of the Quest. And this is a nice little simple solution. This is $130, so it's $130 for the battery, and also you get the official Oculus case. If you guys want to see more in depth about this strap, then you guys can check out my review that I did on it. I'll have it linked down below, and you can go right to that review to check out what I think overall about the Elite strap compared to the original strap. Next thing we need to talk about in comfort is the actual inside. So as you guys can see here, I already removed, if I take this out here, I already removed the original strap that this thing, or original face cover that this thing came with, because this is the VR cover, and this is much more comfortable than the other one for a couple of reasons. One, on the back when it pulls in, it's got these little holes here, so it kind of lets the ventilation go in, so your headset feels cooler. Because you're getting that air coming in and you're letting air go out, so it just feels like a cooler device on your head. And this material lends itself to be cooler than the material that it comes with. The material that it comes with is basically like a microphone material. If you guys have felt that microphone thing that goes on top, it kind of feels like that. So I don't think it's that comfortable. My wife is using it. She thinks it's fine. She hasn't had any issues with it yet. So again, it's one of those things that you're going to have to try out, but do know that if you don't find the head strap that great, or you want an improvement regardless, because even if you think it's okay, I still think this is going to be a big improvement. Not only is this have that little hole like I talked about, it's also easier to clean. So if you're sharing it and the other one's going to soak up a lot of sweat. So if it's a headset you're going to be sharing, this is going to be easier to clean and wipe off. And it has this nice little nose gap on the bottom to block light leakage if you're having that issue. So overall, I think this is a really, really good investment for the headset for those reasons. And I also did a review on this, so it'll be down there at the bottom. If you want more of an in-depth detail compared to the original, that will be at the bottom. The other thing we need to talk about is the audio built into this. Now, on the original Quest 1, I was not a fan of the audio at all. I actually used it for like 30 minutes, played, music games like Beat Saber and Audica and stuff, and I basically just stopped using it immediately. And then I got the 3D printed headphones, the Casa or COS 75, I think I forget the exact name, but it was those clip-on ones that basically were like the Rift CV1 headphones that everybody was getting, and I 3D printed those and put it on my Quest 1, and much better, and I never looked back and never used those. These, and the reason for that is because I like loud sound. Let's be honest, I'm not even an audiophile. It's not that I need like the best sound quality and the best bass or anything like that. Is that I like things loud when they need to be loud, hence why I have a movie theater and stuff, and those speakers just felt really tiny to me. On the flip side, for some reason, on the Quest 2, I think these sound, I guess the way that they're proportioned to like go more directly into your ear, I think these sound louder. I think these sound better. My wife is using them and she has no complaints about them at all with all the things that she's playing. She's not like me where she needs things as loud as possible and stuff, but she still likes them and she thinks they're good. And I think for some people, that's going to be fine for what the audio delivers here. And I think it's better in Beat Saber and it's louder than it was before than I had it on the Quest 1. The only thing is that for me, it's not loud enough. Even though it's louder, it's not loud enough, and there's no bass into it and stuff like that. If you're playing games like Beat Saber and stuff like that, there's no bass, and you're not fully immersed because these are just piped into, so you can hear things around you. But when you get something like the Logitech official headphones that Oculus is now recommending that go over your ears and stuff, you're just more in tune to the virtual environment because everything is encompassed. You can't hear anything around you. The sound is like, 3 times better. It's much louder. You know, has much better bass in games. You know, it sounds really, really good with those headphones, and they fit really well over this with no issues at all, and they're really comfortable. And if you guys also want to see a review on that, that will also be linked down below, because I did a review on all this stuff. If you want to see more detail. But regardless, those are really, really good headphones. Obviously, you can use any headphone you want to plug into the side of the stereo 3.5 millimeter. So if you already have headphones, plug them in and you'll probably be perfectly fine, as long as the cups are big enough to fit over the strap. There's no reason for you to buy another one. I bought those because I didn't have any other headphones that were wired. The only thing else I have is the ones for the iPhone that are, you know, Bluetooth. So Bluetooth, even though it works on here, isn't great. It has a lot of lag, especially in games that are like Beat Saber that need to be driven and stuff like that. So not something that I would want to use, in my opinion, from everything I've tested. So those headphones are really, really good. I'm hoping that one day somebody releases something to put on the side of this, just like they did with like the little clip-on 3D printed ones that are nice little white ones that go to the side and they just kind of hang there, because that's probably something I'd want to put on there. But until that day happens, these are great, great headphones, and anything you use besides that is going to be good. But the built-in sound is actually not that bad and sounds better than the Quest 1. The next thing we need to talk about on here is, of course, the display itself. Now, the display on here is 50% more pixels than the original Quest 1, and the resolution on this one is now 1832 by 1920 per eye, but it is an LCD screen. It's not an OLED screen like the original one. And for what that means, if you use apps like Big Screen and stuff like that, that you're in like a movie theater and things are dark in there, the black isn't as black as what the original Quest 1 was, and that's just the nature of OLED. OLED is going to be better for black levels, but the LCD has a lot of advantages. They can make these products faster. They can keep them more in stock. The resolution can go higher at a cheaper price. It has, you know, there's advantages to both sides, but I really, really like the screen and the resolution on here. I think the resolution bump makes up for it way better than what the Quest 1 was. It's a gigantic difference in my opinion. As soon as you put this thing on, you'll notice the resolution bump immediately in games, in the main menu, all that stuff. Really, really noticeable, and I'll take that over having black levels that are not something that I play all the time anyway. I do use Big Screen. I did go in there, and yes, it's not as black, but it's still black enough. I mean, I'm not distracted by it. It's something I got used to like in a couple of hours, and then I didn't think about it ever again. Now, your mileage may vary if you're going to use this headset all the time to play like dark horror games and dark like simulator games all the time, then this may not be the perfect headset for that. But for anybody else who plays everything like me and wants to experience VR in general, and is not just concentrating on one game or one type of game like flight simulators or just horror games, I think this is a great like middle ground for everything to work really, really well. And the resolution on here is fantastic. And since we have an LCD screen with that high of a resolution that we're getting now, the screen door effect is basically gone. So screen door effect is basically you can see the individual pixels within there if you look hard enough. I basically can't find it in here anymore. You know, it was something that was apparent on the Quest 1 if you looked for it. Even if I look for it here, it's hard pressed to even find it. It's basically negligible or not being found anymore. So that's fantastic in its own way. And of course, we got to talk about the fact that this is now supports 90 hertz instead of 72. So the original Quest was 72. This is now 90 hertz refresh rate, which is fantastic. It makes all games much smoother and stuff like that. But don't forget that on launch day and as of right now, Oculus has not officially released 90 hertz except for in the main menu and on the browser. So for those of you guys who are going into settings and experimental features and you're toggling on 90 hertz and you're thinking now games are running at 90 hertz, you're wrong. It's just for the main menu and it's just for the browser. Even if games have already added support, games like Superhot already said that they have 90 hertz support mode. It will not work if you just toggle that on. The only way you can get it to work is if you have SideQuest enabled, or if you use SideQuest. SideQuest lets you actually enable it by turning on 90 hertz mode, although you have to turn it on every time you power down the headset. You're going to have to run that feature in SideQuest again. But it is an option, and you can test it out and then see what 90 hertz mode gets you in games like Superhot and other games that have already been supported with it. So it's fantastic. I've already tested it by using SideQuest, and I can't wait till Oculus just officially supports it for apps. Apparently there's some Guardian issues that they're having with that and Oculus Link, and that's why it's not released yet. So keep an eye out for that. But it's fantastic when 90 hertz mode comes on, and you can see it already in the main menu when it's enabled. The next thing we're going to talk about here is the actual IPD on these lenses. The original Quest 1 had a actual physical slider that you can actually maneuver all the different ones. So if you had a 64 IPD, you can set it exactly to 64, 65, 66, all those numbers, you know, they had a specific dialer for it. On here, since this is a single panel LCD, they couldn't do that. So what they did instead is that you actually take the lenses and move them And there's 3 positions. There's position 1, position 2, position 3. Position 1 is 58 millimeters. Position 2 is 63 millimeters. Position 3 is 68 millimeters. And that means that if you fall within those ranges, each range has basically a 2.5 millimeter giveaway. So at 58, you can probably go to 60 or 61. At 63, you can go anywhere from 63 to like 65, 66, and so on with the last one. For me, I use setting 2. And I'm a 66 IPD, and it works perfectly fine for me with no issues at all. Now, your mileage may vary, so you need to play with those settings. I heard that setting 3 is probably the least favorable because you can usually see the outer edges. So if you fall in setting 3, you may see the outer edges of the lenses, but regardless, if that's what you have to use, you have to use. Setting 2 seems to be the best for getting like the most like perfect picture, along with 1. So I think 1 and 2 are good. If you need to use either one, it's fine. Setting 3, apparently people are complaining that they can see the outer edges, but that mileage may vary. But regardless, like I said, those are the ranges that you can get to. So anybody who falls within like probably 56, 57, all the way up to like 70, 71, 72 should be fine, but it's something you're going to have to test depending on where you fall in that range. The only thing I like better on this one than the Quest 1, obviously the Quest 1 had the dial-in feature, which was better, is that it seems like that dial thing that they had on the Quest 1 eventually got loose, because as I used it months after it went by, when I was playing games, like heavy games and moving around a lot, the slider would actually move by itself. So it's kind of annoying. Actually, the Valve Index does that a little bit too. This one, since you're moving the actual physical lessons, that's actually not going to happen. So that is one positive thing towards this direction. So, but it should work with most people. It's something you're going to have to test out. So hopefully it works with the majority of us like they're saying, and it should be fun. Next thing we're going to talk about is these Oculus Quest controllers. They did change the design, as you guys can see here. It's a more circular design. They remind me of the CV1 controllers, and it has a lot more space on them because you can actually just lay your thumb right on these controllers, because it has that room now to just kind of lay your thumb there without any issues, and you actually have some room for it, as opposed to before where you kind of had to leave your thumb in like on top of an actual button and you may accidentally hit it or something. Now you have the room to just kind of lay your button when you're not actually using any buttons and you're just moving your hands. You can actually have a spot for it. I think it still feels comfortable. I'm not sure if it's more comfortable than the Quest 1. I think it's fine, and I got used to it after a couple days. And the trigger feels nice. It feels like it has more physical like feel to it when you actually press the trigger. It feels like it's a little bit more durable, like the ring and stuff. When people smack it against the walls, it feels like this is going to have more durability than the original one's going to have, so I don't think there's going to be any issues there. So it's obviously going to come to a personal preference, but I think that they're an improvement for a couple of reasons. One is the battery door. The battery door, as you guys know, when you opened it, it would fling open, and when you were playing heavy games like Beat Saber on Expert Plus and stuff, the door would come off, and it would annoy everybody because it was held by magnets. Now it actually has a clip that holds it in place, so that's a giant improvement, and the thing does not move or come off anymore. Speaking of the battery life on this controller has to be some wizardry stuff that they're doing over there at Facebook, because these things are still sitting at 100% after over 10 hours of use that I had with them, and they still haven't dropped. And it's not that it's broken, it's that that's how long these batteries last. These things last, like, I heard, like 80, 100 hours. Something ridiculous like that. And it's just insane how long these batteries last. And that's a major improvement. You're not going to be using as many batteries on this as you were before. And the third thing that makes these fantastic is the haptic feedback. It is much stronger when you're using haptic feedback games that are vibrating your controller and stuff. It's a much stronger vibration, which I really like. So that's another positive for these controllers. Now, as far as the performance on this headset, it is using the XR2 chipset from Qualcomm, and this thing is a beast. As you guys probably already know, it is much more powerful than the original Quest 1. Now, granted, some of the processing power that this thing has is, of course, going to the fact that it's got to now use the higher resolution. And, of course, when 90 Hz starts being supported for games, it's got to support the 90 Hz mode as well. So, but even after that, it's still basically got, from what I heard, about 25% headroom over the Quest 1, regardless, and if you take the resolution and that 90 Hz one into effect. So you're still going to see improvements in games regardless, and you're already seeing that. A bunch of games already got upgraded to games to use a more powerful chipset, and you're noticing games like Rec Room, for example, that are now coming out and saying that, you know, the Battle Royale or Rec Royale that's in there is actually going to be exclusive to the Quest 2, because the Quest 1 can't run that mode because it's just not powerful enough. And you have other games like Red Matter that have upgraded the textures and upgraded the resolution, and it looks so much better than the Quest 1 did. And that is becoming apparent as more and more games release these patches. And I did a full video on all the games so far that have already been released with these patches already, so you guys know exactly what games have gotten patches so far, and they just look fantastic. It's immediately apparent when you go from Quest 1 to Quest 2 how much better the games actually look on the Quest 2 and how much improvements are going into it, even in this early stage, due to this chipset. And it's a fantastic chipset that's in here, and a much better improvement than when the Quest 1 came out. That chipset was already basically out of date by like a year or two. This chipset is basically the newest technology that can actually go in here, and it shows in the gameplay and how smooth and buttery smooth everything is working in the headset. And things just open up faster. Little things like just turning on the headset from power off to power on takes a few seconds now, where it took like a full minute, it seemed like, on the Quest 1. Launching games is so much faster. Maneuvering through the main menu is so much faster. Everything just feels smoother because of this chipset, and it works fantastic. One of the other things that games are doing in this, because of this faster chipset, is the foveated rendering is being removed. So like, you know how like if you look straight ahead, but then if you look to the corners of your lenses, you saw like the resolution was lower and it was blurry? That was the trick that they used to basically make the graphics better. They only concentrate on making the graphics clear in front of you. A lot of the games, the foveated rendering isn't even there. Because they're just being removed because it's not needed anymore because of the more powerful chipset. So that's just removed and everything is clear around you. So there's just a lot of improvements going into this because of this chipset, and it works extremely well. And it's a giant improvement over the Quest 1. Thing to mention though, even though I'm saying that games are going to be better on here and stuff, is the fact that they're not going to be exclusives to the Quest 2. You may see exclusive modes like Rec Room has already said, but you won't see a game that releases specifically for the Quest 2 that won't be on the Quest 1. At least for the foreseeable future, according to Facebook. The last thing we need to talk about on here is, of course, the battery life. The battery life on here is not great. It's a little bit lower than what the Quest 2 was. The Quest 2, I usually got 2.5 hours. Here, it seems like I'm averaging 2 hours, which is why I got the Elite strap with battery, because now it doubles that. So now I get about 4 hours, 4.5, depending on what you're doing. And that is just much better. I think everyone, for the most part, is probably going to want, like, either the Elite strap, or you want to attach, make a FrankenQuest over here and attach a battery and get one of those for like 20 bucks on Amazon and attach it to the back on the Elite strap or something, or on the regular strap, and get that going. That's fine. But 2 hours is it just flies by when you're in VR. But obviously, they couldn't fit a bigger battery in here. They already got this thing as heavy as it is already. So I understand, and you got to cut costs and stuff. So it makes sense, but definitely something that, is a shortcoming to it at being only 2 hours. And of course, also is the fact that they come in two sizes as well. You got the 64 gig coming at $300, and the 256 gigabyte coming at $400. Now, guys, that is a 100 decrease in price compared to this Quest 1. The Quest 1 had the 64 gigabyte and the 128, and they were $400 and $500. Now we're getting double the storage for $400, still $100 cheaper than the other one, and a much better chipset. Basically, everything is improved on here, except for the comfort with those two things. But even if you add the Elite strap for $50 and you add even the VR cover, you're still coming at $379. You're still coming $20 cheaper than the original Quest did, and it's much better equipped, much faster processor, all those improvements. It's a no-brainer. Like, they're doing a fantastic job. They're definitely taking a hit on each of these things being sold, but they're taking it because they want VR to expand more to the mainstream, and obviously one of the ways to do that is to make the prices cheaper and cheaper. In my opinion, if you're like a person who plays a lot of games like me, you're a VR YouTuber and stuff like that, of course you're going to want the 256 gigabyte. Maybe for most people, 64 gigabyte is fine. For me, for future-proofing and stuff, I've already installed all the games that I wanted and that I always want on there to show people, and I'm at half. So I used 128 gigabytes already, installing all the games that I want. So I have 128 gigabytes going forward, which is fantastic for all the games that are always releasing. So it's up to you on which one you want. Some of the games like Red Matter are most of the games sit around like 1 to 4 gigabytes, but there are getting games that are bigger and bigger. One of the games that got updated, hit 12 gigs. Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners is 12 gigabytes. So that's the outlier in most of this, but just keep in mind that games are expanding and getting bigger in size. The other thing we're going to talk about is the fact that I said that this is standalone VR, which is true, but you can use this on your PC and play PC games, as long as your PC, of course, has the capability of running VR games. And what I mean by that is you need a PC-ready PC. I made a complete video on this, on how to set this up if you want to use it, and what you actually need to set this up. So we're not going to go completely into details on this, but just know that on the Quest 2, you can use the Oculus Link cable or a regular cable. There's some differences between both. And you can plug in the cable into your PC using a USB-C cable and plug it into your PC. And then you can play Rift games and Steam VR games on this with a wire going. And you can play them, and they look almost as good as what the PC games look. and it works fantastic. But if you want to take it to the next level and you want to use virtual desktop, which is an application that lets you play wireless VR, so there's no cables, and you can stream the PC games to your wireless headset. Now, caveat, you do need really strong Wi-Fi 5 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and all that stuff for it to work really well. And that's why I did a video, so we can explain all that stuff if you guys want to watch it. But it runs fantastic for me. And playing wireless PC VR, that's basically as good or better than what the link cable provides right now. It's a no-brainer. If you can do it, use the wireless PC VR, and it's fantastic. And you can play, now you have the whole library on PC, not just the Quest library, to be able to play on here as long as your PC supports it. So a lot of exciting things you can do with that, and a lot more exciting games that you can play on top of what's already on the Quest. The last thing we're going to talk about is, of course, the elephant in the room, and it's the Facebook requirement. Now, for me, I honestly could care less about the Facebook requirement, but I'm making you guys known and aware that if you buy the Quest 2, you're going to need to link your Facebook to the Quest to be able to use it. No ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to need to link it, and that's, for me, personally fine. And I look, if you don't trust Facebook, you probably shouldn't own a Quest. If that's how you feel and you don't trust Facebook, just because now Facebook is requiring a Facebook login, what do you think the difference was when Oculus had an Oculus account? If you're afraid about Facebook using your data and stuff, Oculus has your name and has your email address, and you used it, and people saw it, and it was still going to Facebook. They can still profile you if they want to because they already have that information. Having an Oculus account means Facebook has your account. So it made no difference to me linking my Facebook account, because when you link your Facebook account, you still don't have to use your Facebook account. You can go into the settings like I did, like you can, and just make it so nobody sees your Facebook name, and they only see your regular gamer tag as usual, or your Oculus name, or only your friends see it, whatever you want to do, and nobody even knows that your Facebook account is linked that way. And sure, your Facebook account is linked, and people have issues with the fact that they have to make a Facebook account if they didn't have it. And if that's how you feel, then that's fine, and you're not going to be able to use this headset. But for me personally, the fact that Facebook is using their own Facebook account when they own this product, they can use their Facebook account, just like Apple requires an Apple account, and they use an Apple account. And just like, Xbox uses an Xbox account, PlayStation uses a PlayStation account. And if you don't trust those companies to that extent because you're worried about your data, which, side note, everyone has your data anyway, so you have a phone in your hand, and who cares, in my opinion, at that point. But that's just my opinion. You can have your own. Then this is not a headset for you. So that's my opinions on it. I'm not going to drag that on any longer. You know what you need to do. If you don't want to use it, totally fine. I personally don't care about it, and that's what you need to do to use the Oculus Quest 2. So in conclusion, guys, everything that we've talked about, is the Quest 1 better than the Quest 2? No doubt about it, the Quest 1 is not as good as the Quest 2. It's cheaper, it runs better, it's smoother, the tracking is better, the sound, built-in sound's even a little bit better, the lens quality is better, the resolution is better, 90 hertz instead of 72 hertz. Once you add the Elite strap onto here, for $50, it's more comfortable than the Quest 1 was, regardless to me. Games, are getting exclusive features to it, and God knows what we're going to see in the future with Quest 2 games made on here. The only downsides to this are the fact that you need to get an Elite strap for most people for it to be comfortable, and the fact that it's, like, for some people, where they're going to complain about the fact that it's not using an OLED screen because of the black levels. But for me, that personally doesn't matter. In my use cases, from what I've seen when I use big screen and stuff, it still works perfectly good enough and still looks really good, and the higher resolution really improves big screen and the videos you're watching, which is what you're going to be staring at to begin with. So I don't really have an issue with it. And the fact that it's cheaper in price, this is easily the best VR setup you can get. I mean, think about it. You can get a $300 headset, play all the native games on here, and if you have a PC, you play native games. Like, I have a Valve Index over there, and I still struggle for the last week to know why I need to use the Valve Index now over this, because I can play the wireless PC VR games, and playing wireless without a cable is awesome. The only reasons that I use my Valve Index now is, one, 120 hertz mode, which is fantastic and buttery smooth when you play games like Beat Saber and stuff, no lie. And the fact that the FOV is bigger over there. It's like 120 to 130, compared to this being the exact same as the Quest 1, which is like 90, 95, around that. So those are basically the only reasons I use it over there, compared to usually wireless streaming, which works so well in the Quest 1 and the Quest 2, with virtual desktop, or even the Steam Link cable. So for most people, this is the headset to get, and I would probably recommend this to 90% of the people, 80% of the people out there, as far as, should I get this, or should I get like a more expensive Valve Index or stuff. This is the headset to get for most people, unless if you're like the top tier VR enthusiast that wants the best of the best, then the Valve Index or something is going to be better for you. And, that's totally fine. That's why I have both, because I'm a VR enthusiast, and there's going to be certain things that I want to play on there versus here. But regardless, guys, this is a fantastic headset. $300 is insane. It's the best standalone headset you're obviously going to get. There's not much competition to begin with. But guys, the headset is fantastic. If you guys have any questions about anything we talked about in this review, as always, leave those questions down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.
Tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie, gaming tech.